need to do is literally poke through. Ah, you can see my fingers there, yay! Pick up the front part of the shoulder seam and pull it through so that they both lie in the same direction and one lies inside the other. Now if you make sure that you actually force the sides of the inner one right to the outside, you should get a really nice seam, and you can see me doing this here with a needle and a pin, making sure it's right in the corner, pin into place and stitch down. Now make sure that you don't sew into the seam allowance that's on the side, because we're actually going to cut that back, and if it's sewn right across to the end, that could come apart. You can also, once you've sewn the sides back, cut back one of the seam allowances so it's not so thick. It's always about having really thin seam allowances. This technique is used on children's wear quite a lot. It also applies to dresses of any kind, really. Next, we still need to secure the lining to the shell fabric. The easiest way to do this, and I'm showing you an easier way, I don't necessarily do it like this, but it is for home, so I think the best way to do it. Place the dress in front of you, nice and flat, and pin down both shell and lining together, making sure that the side seams are on top of each other and it's really nice and flat. What we do want to do is we want to sew along just underneath the shell, so that literally this seam disappears into the dress. You won't be able to see that, but if you're finding this difficult and you think, oh dear, I keep slipping off, don't worry about it too much, because we're having the sash which will go on top, and you won't be able to see what you've stitched anyway. But it is a good way of attaching lining and shell together if you're making different items where you don't want stitching to be seen, but you do need to attach them. Now we're literally having the dress together already, and I'm just pointing out to you where I've sewn, and you shouldn't be able to see that stitching. Next we're attaching the sash. Now the sash should go over the side seam and approximately 1.5 centimeters below the bodice. On the inside, that means I've put a white thread into my bobbin, really using the red on top, and also what I'm trying again to do is instead of stitching on top of my front of my sash, is to stitch right where the seam is in the middle there, so that my stitching literally disappears into the seam and you won't be able to see it. It takes a bit of practice, but it's well worthwhile trying and practicing. Handy little trick. And now how clear it is now, you can see that I'm stitching right next to the front of the sash. I'm not even going all the way down. I'm leaving it slightly loose on the last centimetre. Next we're going to attach our buttons. But in order to attach buttons, we first have to make some, don't we? What I'm having here are some metal buttons for covering. I like those best because the teeth hold the fabric much nicer. So you want to cut yourself 5 or 6 circles, depending on how many you need. fold my fabric over so I don't have to cut it singly. And you have about half a centimetre all the way around. And you want to take that thread and the needle and you want to sew in a running stitch all the way around the edge of your little circle. You're only about 2-3 millimeters away from the edge here. Pulls the fabric up. Now just taking a pin or your needle, make sure that the fabric is grabbed by the teeth. You can go all the way around. That's why I like these and not the plastic ones, because you can actually do that. Place the lid on top, and I usually use my teeth to press it into place, but of course you don't need to do that. You can use a pen or something else. You can see the metal back. And you've got all your buttons ready. We're ready to sew them on. If you don't know how to do a knot, this is how you do it. Place a thread over your needle and wrap it around, holding it with your finger and your thumb. Pull your thumb over the wrapped thread and pull it through. And as you let go, you've got a knot in the end. When you're sewing the bottom button on, you do want to go all the way through. And it doesn't matter that it'll show on the other side, because what can easily happen here is the fabric can rip if you don't really attach it firmly. You've got so many layers in there, you've got the seam allowances, that if you don't go through, you risk ripping the fabric. Some people might even like to put a button on the underneath there, just to make sure that it's absolutely firm and it won't come apart. Make sure that you secure your thread. You wrap around the button a couple of times. That makes it nice and firm. Go through again with your needle and go through the loop that you've just left. Can you see? Pull tight and cut your thread off. Now repeat this for every button. I usually do the bottom button, the lower button, and then I do the top button next, just to make sure that they're in exactly the right place. Again, you go through. This time you don't have to go all the way through. I tend to do it because I do want them to be firm, and children move, children get pulled. You don't want the fabric to rip, you want it securely on there. Wrap around the button, create your little loop, go through, cut your thread off, and you're done. Just closing the buttons. Again, you need to check that the ruler loops are actually the right size. Sometimes they're not, and you've just sewn away too much. This is the point you realise it's a little bit late now, because we've also top stitched the seam allowance back, so that'll be a bit of a disaster really. But yes, they all fit. At this point, I would also suggest that you make sure that you've actually checked that the garment is the width in the waist that you want it, because at this point you can still take your buttons off and place them further over if you need to make it a bit tighter, if you need to make it a bit looser. I'm just seeing that it's about 24 inches and my little client is 23 inches, so just want to have a little bit of movement, don't want it to be too tight. Tying my bow, I really like tying bows when I'm finished with the dress. I just do it just to see how lovely it looks. Puff them up. And complete success. One dress done. All that remains to be done now is the petticoat.